All right, my friend, the guard. Thank you for meeting with me. I think that this a lot of people have been waiting for this. So let me just kind of give a little bit of background about myself. I've been involved with Theta for about 18 months, um, almost. I go by Dr. Theta in the community. Um, Theta for me started just as a hobby. Pretty much when I got out of residency, I realized pretty quickly that fiat, if I wanted to go the traditional way about retiring, it was probably not going to work out. And I decided to kind of educate myself because when you choose a career in medicine and when you go to med school and residency, that's pretty much all you do, and you have no time for anything else. And as I learned more about different vehicles of investment, metals, real estate, stocks, we name it. I got very interested in crypto, and that was in 2020. And I bought my first little bit of Bitcoin. And as I started researching about altcoins, I learned about Theta, and I got into Theta. I actually downloaded Discord so I could learn a little bit more about Theta. And before you know it, I got super into the community. And I started helping out with a few of the discourse. I started buying my first Theta, watching YouTube videos, and um, and kind of took a role where I was just kind of educating newcomers. Right, this is early 2021 when the token started to do very well from like a dollar of you had that run all the way up to like $16 by the summer. And there were a lot of newcomers to Theta, and I basically, I got involved with, I've gotten involved with a lot of different projects, but one of the main things I did was create my own Guardian node, and I asked Wes to allow me to be in the one-click delegation, and he did, which was awesome. And since then, I've been just providing a Guardian node for anybody in the community to stake their Theta. And yeah, and along the way, I got into NFT projects. I've been helping out in Discords, and then I've been helping out a lot with. I'm part of the Open Theta team. That's one of my um, the more exciting things that I do. And here recently, I'm part of the ThetaCon team. We're planning the inaugural Theta conference in December. So super excited about that. I just met you earlier this year. That was the first time that we ever talked, you and I, and I kind of have been very interested in everything that you do. I obviously saw your videos from way back when, as you are a big part of the community, and so that's obviously known about you. Everybody's in data knows about you. And the reason that we're having this is because last week I pretty much offered up, hey, I'm somebody that still has a lot to learn, and I think I would be a great person to kind of have a chat with you, so you can explain a little bit more about what's going on. And because there's sometimes two developers talking or two crypto people talking, a lot of what they say goes right over each other's head. So I figure that this would be a good opportunity to learn more about you and for the community to learn more about you at the same time. So, without further ado, I want to start by kind of um, learning a little more about your background and maybe a little more about your life background, if that's okay with you sharing that, and then kind of tell me a little bit about like how you got into cryptocurrency and then eventually how you got into Theta.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right. Well, yeah, I remember vividly our first conversation. I threw quite a bit at you. You looked like you got hit by a two by four. Um, yeah, yeah. So okay. So let's do a little bit of background of me. I know maybe as far back, but so I built my first computer when I was 9. I just had a feeling of connection with electric devices. Some people, I mean, even to this day, I'll walk in just to go and touch something and it starts working again. I don't know, it's bizarre. But anyways, so yeah, I built my first computer when I was 9, a Cyrix 686. Wow, man, I thought that thing was light speed. So I built that, and then I started messing around with BBSs and letting people come and connect to my computer and so on and so forth. Found a really, great knack in it, and then started learning, code and all that kind of stuff. And then, out of high school, I I was going to college for electrical engineering. I worked as an electrician. And my intent for that was so that I could be an intermediate engineer, so that I could talk to the guys on the floor and talk to the guys with the suits. And I thought that that was going to be, the best career path for me, because I felt like I could be that intermediate role, From there, markets didn't, favor so well, and I had uncles, I'm here, Michigan, was where I was, at that time too, and they were concerned about their career, and they said, I don't know if this wave's going to take me all the way to retirement and everything like that. And then I don't know if you know this. I don't know if we've ever gotten to speak about this. Maybe I did tell you a little bit about this, but at that point, I was, in college shooting, pool with my, at that time, future brother-in-law, who was a firefighter. And I'd asked him, I said, hey, do you enjoy your job? And, he told me, yeah. And he told me the things, the perks and everything like that. And I decided to transition into the medical field. So I went out, I got my Fire 1, Fire 2. Yeah. I got, paramedic, went to all of the EMS schooling, that I could. Ended up working in the ER. And then at that point went to military medicine, where I then obtained, my critical, my combat medic. Went from that to then nursing. Got my nursing license through the military.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I, practiced a bit, civilian medicine, cardiac interventional floor.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
I worked in the cath lab, and that's what I did.
Oh, well, I used to get your patients then.
Interventional radiology and cath lab before I went to medical school. I worked for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, working in the ER and EMS and everything like that, man, I got to feel, a 12-year-old girl's heart come back. There's been such amazing experiences that, and, what I was doing at the same time as working on the floor as a nurse and, in the medical field is that I was coming home afternoon, I had the afternoon shift. So everyone was sleeping, I didn't really, so I was eating, dinner in the dark, I'd turn the lamp on and I'd get, a pillow thrown my way. But anyways, at that point I really started to say, well, I want to get back to my roots. And I started, back into, crypto was, taking off pretty good around then. And, 2012. And then from that point forward, I did my day job and I would come home and I would help out with any project that I could come up with and, go from the community. I worked my tail off. I, found some exploits and stuff. And so pretty much it was like clock out and clock in to the next shift, so to say. From there, it's when you're working the afternoon shift, it's, it can be lonely, and it was a nice outlet for me. And I got to return to my, original technology and computer roots, and it really had a comforting feeling to it. So, that was where I ended up, transitioning then fully, into, volunteering my time to crypto projects. I became extremely passionate about it. I think everyone knows that already by now, but anyhow, so basically I would find projects and then, get interested in them. Sometimes I'd mine them. And, back then what it really was, you would go and you would sit there and wait for something to pop up. It's not like it is now. There weren't a whole lot of even YouTubes out there on it. There were just the stock ones. So, going out and, finding projects that like I I didn't know their code base. Like I learned Bitcoin's code base. Code base is like what the code is designed like out of. I learned Litecoins, I even, mined some Litecoin and, Bitcoin and so on and so forth. And then from there, I started up to, finding different code bases. There was a project.
Like Solidity code base, is that?
Solidity is a language. It would be considered like a programming language, and a code base is like, so a code base traditionally meant like, what did this thing fork from, right? So Litecoin forked from Bitcoin, so that was its code base. Like, where did it base start, and then fork from there, and as it like
our code base is ETH.
Yeah, like ETH is like a code base, and then Theta sort of took some of Ethereum, and some others, and then they added their own to it, with the Byzantine, something like, BitShares, and so on had started.
When you say projects, is it like more projects within a blockchain or just like different blockchains? What do you mean by projects?
Yeah. Different blockchains back then was how a project existed. There was one that I helped out with where we were doing Node.js. We built it from scratch, and it was a really cool project. It was before even Ethereum was doing smart contracts and stuff. We were working on all of that. That one ended up exhausting its resources, and I had come on to that project, I don't know, maybe it was like 6 months. I'd have to really like look at it after it had, I came in from like the community. That was really exciting, man. I busted my tail trying to help out as much as I could, and then they pulled a couple people in from the community to help out and do like quality checking and stuff like that. So from
is this by yourself or with the team? Like did you just
was
meet
a team
people online and
yeah,
you met people, or you just had like a group of like buddies that
no like, yeah, this was just people that I never even like really met in real life ever before or anything like that. Basically, it was like me with the solo mission. I was just going around with whatever group I would stick to at that time and help out and, bounce around. And, I really had like, not just a thirst for this, but I think, everybody can tell right now. I mean, my heart sometimes is bigger than my brain sometimes when it comes to crypto, where some of these projects, the lead developer would leave, and then I'd be sitting there trying to make some value come out of it. I was, donating my own money for some of these ones. I mean, most of these projects didn't raise funds. They were just either mined or they were given away as airdrops. And, I didn't like if there was a big developer pre-mined and stuff. The thing about it is everyone probably doesn't realize, but I was a crypto investor, like everybody. And that's why I think that that's how I started. And I built like, a lot of my principles from seeing the communities and what people, wanted and what the developers were doing. And, I did a lot from a community standpoint, before, I tried helping out like projects and stuff.
Yeah.
But
were there ever any of these projects that you were involved in that you felt were, that you felt that you got into something that really kind of went south quickly and had the opposite effect of what your intention was of helping the project or helping investors or helping people?
Yeah, I guess here's the thing is that, a lot of people don't realize, but, I put my faith in some projects and not that I ever, so I guess it's a two-part question. I've put my faith in projects that I wasn't involved in, or I was just, a community average person. I put some money into it and it lost everything. I've been burnt a lot, and I'll be honest that is what motivates me every dang morning, is knowing what it was like to get hit by scams and so on and so forth. And I'll be honest, some of those losses were were devastating to my family. Not in the sense that I put in stuff that I lost a house or anything, but you build up this hope and this dream of what this could potentially be one day for you. And you put so much energy into it. And, you've invested money, you've invested time, you feel like you're part of a community, you are a part of a community. And then for that to be ripped away from you, it's much deeper than just a money feeling like that, what you get. So I've had that experience, some projects that I've personally helped out with that, you constantly want to make sure that everything that you've built is being successful and takes flight and replaces Bitcoin. I think that's, used to be everyone's goal at that point. I'm just trying to think back to some of those projects, but the thing is I think if you take a big deep dive into my complete history, you would see that the overarching pattern is sort of the same right now as it always was. And to be honest, a lot of them I donated a lot of my money and tried to bring some value when the lead dev left and stuff like that. And it was my attempt to keep bringing value, as a developer and as somebody trying to help out with a project. The thing is that, when you go down with the ship, you keep trying to bring the value, you keep trying to do all of that stuff.
Have you ever, while the ship was sinking, try to convince investors to invest in a project where you felt like there was no realistic way of turning the project around?
That's a good question, because I think that's a very powerful thing. And I'll be honest with you, selling something while it's going down. And, here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there right now that have lost faith in some of this stuff, and they're selling. And here's the thing is that they don't feel like it's got value anymore, and they're selling. I don't want to bring in project names and stuff like that, but we're seeing projects dump right now to the bottom, and they're coming out and they're selling what they feel like is worthless. And that is horrible. Whether it's worthless or not, there is repercussions from that. I don't want to say Luna, but Luna. You got people that legitimately think that their Luna tokens aren't worth anything, but they're going to squeeze the last pennies out of it. You got some people that are, aren't thinking that the LP tokens have value, and the whole IL that we'll get into and everything like that, and they're selling them. And if they truly believe that has no value and they're just selling that, that's stealing. That's stealing. I don't care, that, yes, I know that it has value, but if you truly believe in your heart that it has no value and you're selling it, that is not nice. That's not appropriate. No, and I have never done any of that kind of, if I don't feel like something's got value, I'm not going to sell it to somebody. That's not the way that I balance myself. So, no, I mean.
Yeah, I know. I guess I was more, I got your answer for sure, but I guess I was more trying to inquire whether there, because sometimes when you put your heart into a project and you've invested quite a bit, and you still can be tempted to get more investors, and so I just wanted to ask that direct question. If you've ever gone after investors when you yourself had lost some of the faith in your project, and kind of knowingly that these investors were at high risk of losing their funds if they invested in your project or the project that you were a part of.
Listen, I'll be honest. It's hard for me to even recommend my product. I know I strive for excellence, but it's not. I'm not trying to save an asset with trying to go and find somebody to buy it while it's going down. No, I've never done that. Never once have I done that, where I'm like, let's save a project by now having somebody else come and buy what isn't doing well. It's let's get some value and see if we can bring people in, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't really. I don't know too much about your past projects. I know a few names, but I just know that that's a few of there's a lot of noise out there, and that's a few of the concerns. I mean, when people start to get concerned about their investment, they start to look at the past record, and that's some of the things that I've heard. So that's why I'm asking about it. To be honest, for what it's worth, I don't think like I mean I don't think if you're selling your LP token because you're scared to hold it, it's necessarily. I don't think you should hold on to it. I don't think it's a bad. I don't think it's an immoral thing. I was more kind of going at as part of a project. And you've already answered the question, kind of continuing to sell that project or getting people to invest it. But thank you for answering that. Um, the so you spent a lot of time in these projects. It sounds like a lot of this was a huge learning experience. I think a lot of times when you're involved in projects, whether they're successful or especially if they fail, you learn quite a bit. And so how did you find out about Theta, and tell us about the beginnings? Because, I know you've been there from the very beginning, from all the research I've done, where the OGs were there, where the first Guardian delegations and all that stuff. And, you've managed to create G World now, it's just called. It used to be G Pool, and you have by far the biggest community pool Guardian node, right? So how did that come about?
Yeah. The story of Theta. That was a wild day when I found Theta. So I was back then. Trading bots, was something that people would run. They, you would get, the software loaded up, and you trade your coins in between the Bollinger Band or what have you. So, I was working on a trading bot that not only took in, data from the chart, but also took in like metrics from articles and, all that kind of stuff. So I was really trying to drill down on some market indicators more than just the charts. And at that time, I was working with another gentleman, and we were working on the trading bot. Basically, a guy that I had met along the way. I don't talk to him anymore, and I'm curious sometimes of what he's doing. But anyways, what the concept was that you were going to be able to point your capital while still holding the custodian of it in your wallet. You're going to be able to point your trading bot at somebody else's trades. So like you could follow a trader with his patterns, how he would execute, and so on and so forth, get recommendations, get the whole star system out there of, how good this one's done. So it would have almost been like a non-custodial fund that everybody sort of follows with their coins in their account, and it takes in the, some market metrics and some, article stuff and everything like that. So what happened was I was developing that, and I was looking at data and getting stuff in, and all of a sudden, I saw I was trying to, get the scoring down for data and everything like that outside of the market. And I got this score back on this Theta coin, and I was like, this is not ranking like a coin. It ranked like a Bitcoin or like something. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was quite high. Definitely not a coin that I'd never heard of. What the heck is this thing to score like this? So I'm like, all right, well, at least I got to check it out before I just dump this data and move on. So I'm like, all right. So I load up their page, and on their page, I see Samsung, Sony. I go, what is this?
This is late 2018?
Yeah, well, this is beginning 2018. So, in the mid, the early part of 2018. I'm looking at this thing, and I go, what? How in the world have I missed this? And I'm like, all right. Let me put some YouTubes on and see what I can hear about out there or whatever. And there weren't a whole lot of videos out there on it even yet. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll invest some into this, and let me try to see if I can get active in the community. That's what I normally did. If I invest in a token, I like to make sure, let's see if I can help. I got this knowledge and I can help potentially bring value. And if I'm going to invest in it, let's see what I can do. So I go into the Telegram and, it says not official Telegram on it. And I'm like, well, all right, when they get an official Telegram, I'll go and I'll, join that at that point. So months and months had gone by. And all of a sudden, I think I joined their announcement Telegram. So I'm like, well, at least I'll get to see some of this stuff come across. At least this seems like it's a legitimate, like, official capacity of their, to their link to their site or something.
So they actually used to have a Telegram account.
Yeah, they did. They did. And they had an announcement one. And so I got that one. And all of a sudden, God, it was months later, I get this thing across. Now, mind you, I look at things from a development standpoint of what I've seen succeed, what I have seen fail, not just things that I've built, things I've watched other people build. I very intently watched all of that stuff. Well, I'll be honest. What happened was I got an alert that said that they were doing this coin called Gamma Coin. They had Theta and it was called Gamma Coin at the time. And that's what T-Fuel ended up turning into. It was originally called Gamma. And it was like a placeholder for, like, the name. And
Thank God they changed the name.
Yeah. So basically, I read this snippet. Yeah, T-Fuel. I read this snippet and I'm like, what did they just do? They have a dual coin system now? And I was like, I jumped into their Telegram and I was like, trying to figure out why they would change to this dual coin, system. And, I'm like, but all the rewards need to come back in the token that you have staked so you can compound it. And me and Wes, that was our first meeting, was basically like we met in public, meaning basically I threw out this big... I hadn't even been on Telegram ever in my life at that point. So I throw out this big block of text and Wes comes back and goes, first off, if you're going to ask this many questions, please number them. And, he numbers them and answers them back to me, and, I start, doing my deep dive, then going, well, okay, let me see what's going on with this dual coin system and everything like that. And I started running models and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out, sort of disprove their thought behind this. And I started getting more and more I think everybody knows that, I like the balance between T-Fuel and Theta. And I started to really dive into that and the numbers.
Golden ratio.
The golden ratio, right? Anyways, so, basically what then happened is I then took a step back and I said, okay, I'm really liking what I'm seeing with this project. This sounds like it's going to be great for humanity. I mean, honestly, and I still feel that to this day. Anyways,
That's good.
I do. Good. Oh, for sure. Are you kidding me? But anyways, and I looked at it and I said, where's the void? What does the community need to do? What can I stand up and do? And I'm like, they're going to need a pool, this. I know that their concept is to have every single person run a computer, and I'd love to see that. I mean, Jesus, I started BBSs, I agree with that sentiment, and I love that sentiment. And I said, but these are people that have their capital, and they not only want to stake, but there's people that want to vote on the protocol. And I know that they're going to have to take it to where when you vote, you're voting if you have it staked. Now, we don't have a whole lot of official information yet on voting and the governance token and so on and so forth, but there was a lot of talking about that in the OG room and, that whole big group of, I think we had 50, then now we're up to 80, and, a lot of people, a lot of ideas. We all talked for hours about what we thought it was going to be, how it could happen, this, that, the other thing. We spent so long deliberating on this, and I really thought, I'm I know how these principles work. You want people to be staked, and that's how they vote. And I'm like, you know what? I want to make sure that not only do people be able to deploy their capital and stake it, but they can also then, when it comes time to vote on that, on the protocol changes. Here's the thing: if we don't have every different walk of the world voting, we're an echo chamber. We're a bunch of, computer warriors that know how to run the tech and everything like that. We need a gardener. We need, we need a doctor. We need people that don't completely think exactly like we all do, because that's how Satoshi broke the mold. And I don't know if a lot of people have ever really thought through this, but a lot of cryptographers, and I don't know this for 100% certain, but when you look at his code and how he wrote stuff, he really looks like somebody that was thinking outside of the box. And he came at it, instead of cryptographers coming and saying, well, we can't do that, he came at it and said, how would we do it? And, that to me is really what decentralization's about. It's not about hiding. It's not about, it's about touching as many different facets and locations as you can. So that was basically where then I decided, I said, okay, they should be able to deploy their capital and stake their theta, and they should be able to vote on the protocol. Even though they can't run one, we'll run one, with redundancies, make sure this thing's nice and beefed out. And that's basically how the pool became, my life mission,
Okay, so that was right off the bat, the first idea you had as the way that you can help out. So basically you're saying that the idea was more, all right, I want to be involved in this, and how can I make a difference, rather than like, how can I make some money here?
Yeah, the pool has never made me money. Maybe we should go into that. I don't know if a lot of people know, but did you want to go in that?
The pool. So let's do that. So
sure.
The pool used to be 0% fee at some point when it started, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And now it's now it's been 4%. So when somebody stakes, we're talking about the Guardian node, the Guardian pool.
Yes. Yes.
And I believe your T fuels are 4% too, right? When people choose to stake to the EN.
Oh yes. Yes.
Okay. So basically, people get to keep 96% of their rewards.
Yeah.
So how you went from 0 to 4? Why did you do that? And are you still not making money from that?
Okay, yeah, sure. So we went from 0. So very close to 2 years. I'd have to do the math, but basically we charged 0, and there was a lot that needed to go in the way to actually charge a fee. Now, historically, there is a fee for validator nodes, and a lot of people have seen, Cardano and so on and so forth, Polkadot, you can charge a fee. Well, Theta didn't have that system. As a matter of fact, Theta didn't even really have it planned to have pools in the original code and how it all worked. So my team, we had to sit back and try to figure out, how are we going to even have people delegate to us? So I had to make sure with JE back and forth, could we even share a summary? Is there sensitive information? Because there wasn't a whole lot of code they published on how the signatures worked and everything like that. So we just had to make sure, how the gossip protocol and all of this stuff worked, and basically we had to do a lot of testing. There wasn't a whole lot of information. I mean, there was very sparse information out there, and we were reverse engineering, figuring out how the code even works, and so on and so forth. So
this is you, and you're working alongside Theta Labs with these stuff?
Yeah, and they were busy doing what they had to do. So like every once in a while, I'd be like, to be honest, the first year, I didn't know JE was a person. They would say, you asked JE about that, and he didn't really have a lot of presence out there, and so I just was like, I didn't know until I finally I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then every once in a while I could get a question in, and I swear they probably thought that I had some kind of problem, because as soon as I would get a hold of one of them, I just fire off. Can I just trying to get any little shred of what we're trying to build and everything like that. And finally testnet comes out, and we're working with that, and everybody wanted to stake as soon as testnet drops. So we had to make sure that we were ready for all of that. And anyways, so basically what happened was there really wasn't that core set from the start ever. And so we sort of chiseled that out. And then I kept in the ear of Theta Labs. I'm like, we need to get a fee on chain. We need a fee on chain, and there was some creative solutions that had come from them and JE and stuff. And, some of them were like, a smart contract, just set up a smart contract. And, and I was like, no, the summary will need to be audited. And if the summary is audited in the smart contract, anybody can just grab my summary. So I'm like, all right, if we're going to do that, then you got to be able to shut down who can stake to your summary. Because as soon as someone's got your summary, that's it. They can stake to you unless you shut down the whole thing and delete it. So basically I was like, we can't have a smart contract because the summary will be publicly auditable in the smart contract. If you can't audit it, then you don't know that you're really interacting with the proper smart contract, and so on and so forth. So I was like, this needs to be something that anybody can do. Anybody. And I was a huge push for that. I needed to make sure that this was as easy as pie for them to get their fee. Set it up and it just does it automatically. Because I needed to make sure I had competition. I didn't want to be the only pool around. And I knew that if this was a complicated way to get a fee to somebody, there weren't going to be people that could just sprout these things up. While I inherently knew that not every single person investing in Theta could run their own computer, I did know that whoever was going to offload that to a pool, we still needed to keep that spread out too. So that it wasn't, if we're taking decentralized.
So, gotcha. So what you're saying here is that if your pool was 0% because you couldn't charge a fee, then everybody would just stake to your pool, and then that would obviously hurt the blockchain because there's just one big fat guardian node.
To put down to 0. Yeah. So what I did is we came up with, so we looked at like other staking pools, and it was 10%, was about the top. There was some Tezos where they were like at 12. Heck, Coinbase does 25%. So we said, well, if 10 is like about the average, if 10 is like the high, then we'll go to 4, which is just below the average of 5. So we did 4, which is below average. And so, yes, if we keep dropping, so I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go too low, because then it's what's called a race to the bottom, meaning there's no way that then anybody else can come underneath us. And if I wanted to make it fair for everybody. There wasn't even another staking pool out there. So my decision will go for, it's 1 point below the average, and we'll go at 4. That still leaves a little bit of room underneath for people to come in and still pay their costs. Well, right now, what everyone should know is that 4% was probably the wrong decision. And I can admit that was a wrong decision.
Why?
It's not enough. It just simply is not enough. And I'll be honest with you, I get worried that if we were to shut down Gpool, the percentages that everyone else is charging out there is not enough to keep this hardware. First off, if we shut down and we just shut off our servers, the scarcity of servers concerns me. We have servers that I pay for right now just to make sure we've got them. So when we're expanding, we've got them, and basically, I need to make sure that we can expand out. And right now we use those servers as redundancies, as backups. So if one of our servers goes down, we have a backup. But at some point, we're going to march them all out so that they are all being used, and we're going to have to try to come up with other redundancies. But anyways, so yes.
So hold on.
Go ahead.
Help me understand.
Sure.
The reason for the need. So the reason that you were working with Theta Labs to change the protocol so that you can start charging a fee to those who choose to stake Theta to your Guardian pool, was it to be able to pay for the servers? Was it be able to pay for the hardware and your services that you're providing, or was it to be able to make it so that the blockchain is viable with more Guardian pools coming on board and allow for better competition?
Both. Yeah, both really,
Okay.
And now we see right now that, when it came down to it, I mean, the 4%, and I thank you everybody for the 4%. I don't want people to think, I guess what I'm saying is that if we all of a sudden pull the fee, we got, G World, we got all this other stuff that's able to pay this cost. If we all of a sudden went to 0, there's no competition out there, and that's dangerous. And that is something I would never do. I have to keep me at 4 to make sure that there's room underneath, but at the same time that we're not at 0. So then there's no competition out there, because we have a different way to pay for it at that point, and so it's a double thing is that it was designed to pay back my corporate loan I lent to the pool, and then B, also to make sure that we could continue paying costs.
Okay, and now you're still saying that by far, what is this? Hold on a second. The numbers are easy. They're on Guardian Monitor.
Sure.
You have by far the most theta stake to G pool. What is it? 2 million, right? So the next one is 11 million. So that's 20x, right? And you're saying that those rewards are right now, you're not even breaking even?
No, not even breaking even.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sad, and to be honest with you, I'm not going to call it that, but one could look at G Pool as a failed model right now. I know everybody's sitting there saying, "Wow, look at this, this is great," but it's failed. It's fiscally failed. Right now, it's not paying its bills, and I know a lot of people like to say, I guess a lot of people wouldn't hold themselves accountable for that and say, well, it's not a failure. Look at what we're doing. But I'm supporting it. I'm paying for it out of pocket. It's not paying for itself. We've had to, completely restructure corporately so that we could then, continue to get this G World and everything else under its umbrella across the table, and it's.
That's interesting. No, I did not think so. So what's so expensive about the?
If you want to be honest, I'll be honest with you, it's T-Fuel. T-Fuel staking is horribly expensive because we have to have all those servers up. And to be honest with you, I looked at this and in December, so G Pool's like advisors and employees of G Pool haven't gotten the regular pay since November. And they're still with us. And I've been paying cost and then extra cost. So out of the money that we've raised, I pay some of the cost out of, then I pay the rest to catch up that slack. So with that being said, the thing about it is so when you take a look at, at this project and everybody able to earn all these rewards off of all of this, I have to be true to it and say it's a failure right now to me in my eyes. And I hate saying that because I love it, man. I love the pool. I love what I've created.
So what's it going to take it to be successful?
Well, to be honest with you, that's why we had to restructure. That's why we had to make sure that G World overarched G Pool can and assume the responsibility of it so that when we generate value from all of the other stuff that we're building, we can help sustain it. Because here's the thing. I think people should take a step back and think of this, okay? I had a very hard decision to make, okay? I made a competing product, basically, with the LP. And I very easily could have come out to tell everybody, we're shutting down T-Fuel staking. And then I could have simply said to them, but we've got a solution over here and come on over into here. But instead, I decided to continue paying out of my pocket to make sure that edge nodes, I'm going to tell you, some of the edge nodes aren't even used anymore. And I'm paying out of my pocket to make sure that those edge nodes are running so that we did not shut off a single edge node because of the LP. That's been a huge concern of mine.
How many edge nodes do you have?
How many we've got spun up? I'd have to look back through right now, but thousands.
Okay, so that makes sense because I have 8 community, or we, because we're a team, and you're right. There's just no way that
if I shut it down tomorrow, man, it's not good.
Okay, why is it not good? I mean, other than the obvious, but I want to hear it from you. Why is that not good?
It's, to be honest with you, first and foremost, I do not think that the rest of the pools, and I would love to see them do it, but
no way.
I don't think the rest of the pools could stand up all the edge nodes that we have going right now.
Well, wouldn't that be helpful? Wouldn't that force everybody to then run their own edge node so they can stake their T-Fuel?
I think
wouldn't that be a good thing?
I think that the people that can, for sure, would be able to. But there's a lot of people, we've helped people that are 90 years old and plus
Yeah.
I had to teach them how to copy and paste just to show me their screen. And here we are helping them run edge nodes and so on and so forth. So the thing is that there would be a huge vacuum, a huge void, a bunch of people that now have their T-Fuel and they're sitting there saying, well, what am I going to do with it? I'm not earning rewards on it anymore. I don't feel like I'm contributing my capital to the edge network. I don't know how to run one of these silly things. And here we are. Now we've taken offline all these healthy edge nodes that we have out there that are willing to work as soon as Theta comes, up with the jobs.
So why are you not bumping up your feet on the edge nodes then?
Well, to be honest, where we'd have to bump the feed right now, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. My wife asks me a lot too, man. I don't know. I don't know. It's 4%. I guess, maybe we should, but I guess what I'm saying is even at 10% with the price of T-Fuel where it's at,
right.
It's just, so here I'm going to sort of gouge more out in a feed that's not going to really completely like satisfy. So, I guess I hate to say that. Any extra is good. If you want my honest opinion, I just don't want to take more from the people and it just sort of be put into a black hole and not like completely solve the situation. So I just said 4%, let them keep the extra. I don't know, man. I struggle with it, to be honest with you. I don't know.
But it seems like what you came up with is a different strategy, and it seems like that's how the restructuring and the creation of G World came around. So,
right.
So what is G World? And I know that there's a lot of this is very new, and a lot of this is still yet to be developed. And so I have a few questions in regards to G World.
Sure.
The first one is well, who is your team? It's you and who else?
Yeah, we got a lot of them. And, to be honest with you, some of them I've hired on and I didn't completely say, are you okay with going and being a public figure in this space? So, we have a lot of talent that I just need to make sure that, they're all right with that kind of stuff before I completely dive into all of that stuff. But I'll be honest, I'm sure I can at least speak to what they've done and things that they've potentially their career and why we chose them to help out. I don't have so with that. So there are, like I've been saying, in chat, there are some, I guess I would call them Disney level graphic engineers that we're working with that have worked on some really big projects.
That can't be cheap.
No, it's not. But I'll be honest with you, they're passionate, man. We've been so blessed that the price that we're able to get them at. It's a blessing, man. They're very passionate. One of them in particular was like, I knew this was coming. Oh, I got to dig up that old laptop. I knew this was going to come at some point. And, I got this and this and this and this other, one that we've got, he's sitting there and he's like, listen, I got this part and this part and this part. And like, there's been so many different things. And I was like, I was thinking like this for this long. And, I'll be honest, a lot of like G World and the different like parts have been sort of like, all of us sort of being like, oh, I had this and this and this. I'll be dead honest. This whole team feels like our whole life we've been learning how to do exactly what we're about ready to do, but we just didn't know it until now. Like the facets and how the puzzle pieces plug together. That's why I'm so excited, because there is.
Awesome. Hey, so anyways, how many people make up the core team?
God, I'd have to count now. At least.
Oh, it's like that.
Yeah. Well, what do you call core? How many hours do they work for us? Are they freelancers that they do, hey, we got, this to do, and they.
So how many people have worked 20 hours or more over the past 4 months with you per week, obviously? 17
maybe, if I had to just do a rough
count.
So
you got a solid team.
Yeah,
solid team. Okay,
blessed,
so
man.
How come your story's not out there? How come you don't have a who we are, a website saying who you are, what your mission is, and why wouldn't you want to put your story out there, your faces out there? I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are a very powerful force and are big time developers in the Theta ecosystem. Is it because that's your philosophy, as I guess the CEO of G World, not to lay low? I don't understand why you're not more candid with your mission.
Yeah. So, with me, and my, identity and everything like that, um, it's quite easy to find my home address. There's just no other way about it. That once you have my name, you have my home address. That's it. That's bottom line. I got a 13-year-old son. There's not a lot of people that understand crypto. They see $1 billion at G Pool, and this is the guy that has it. I'm gonna go get it from him, and I'll be damn honest that I'm here trying to build. I'm not here trying to like worry my son at school if he's going to get kidnapped and someone's going to force me to try to give him money that I don't even have. And a lot of that stuff goes through your mind as an adult, as a parent, as somebody that's responsible for another, life being. And to be honest with you, it was selfish because of me me wanting to protect my family and my son, my love, anyways.
I think that's legitimate. I think that's fair. I think you take into consideration. I think it's fair. What you're saying is more than fair if you're thinking that Theta is going where it's going, right? Where you can end up being orders of magnitude more successful than in what you are today. I get it. I get it. I mean, I have my own opinions about that, but I think that's a reasonable answer. So you are basically trying to protect your identity, and okay, okay,
Basically, to protect my identity until I know how to properly release it. To be honest with you, that's basically it. I didn't grow up, in this big wealthy family. I don't know. I've had to learn all of this kind of stuff. I just wanted to come and build like crypto. And I've had to learn a lot of stuff. I had to learn what markets look like and what the system looks like we have so that we can build a new one. There's been a lot of stuff that a crypto developer needs to learn. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen a good solution for that yet. So I was like, it's my intention. I'm proud of this stuff, man. At some point, I would love to accept the dang award or something. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to get one. I'm just saying, like, at some point, I would love to, but I just didn't know the proper path to protect myself. And until I felt like I knew a good solution, I just didn't want to do it at that point. And that was basically, that was sort of how I just rolled forward.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so you've been at this for 3 years. You have the Monster Guardian Pool, which is what G Pool stands for, in case people don't know. And all of a sudden, you come up with a vision for G World, which I hope to come back to in a second. And the idea for the LP happens, right? You must have obviously said the utility token for G World is T-bill, and I think we can get into DeFi here. People were nuts. People were very excited. I mean, the Perma Bulls Telegram was blowing up. People saying, "The guard, thank you. I'm going to retire early." All over the place, and it started doing very well. A lot of money went into it, and what the hell happened?
Yeah. So I guess the to summarize it, the over. So when you take a look at where we're at right now, all of this was planned for in the event it did happen. All of it there's not been anything that's really caught me by surprise where I said, oh, wow, we didn't plan for that, or shoot, oh my gosh, or anything like that. All of this is, I've been in markets up and down. I got to make sure that I have a plan for if they go up or if they go down. And that's where the IL coverage and the IL airdrop comes from. So thank God that was something that we built in and had planned from the start. I will say my mistake was that when we had the IL ready to go and we were, we could have put it out on the dashboard and everything like that, my mistake was not to put it out there. Months ago, it was showing zeros for everybody. And I was like, well, this is a metric that's showing zeros. There was still a little bit of tweaking we needed to do to it. And I was like, everything's still zero right now. Let's just transition. And that was a poor decision. That was a extremely poor decision on my end. We shouldn't have transitioned. I was a bit like, a bit chaotic in the fact that we were that close. And I should have just released it, showed a zero. Who the heck cares? Show a zero for years. What does it matter? We had it, and in case of an event like this happening, it would have been there and ready. Well, I decided we had more important things to do, and I messed up. And I should have been showing it from the start, and then people could have seen how it worked. I should have gone over it in depth with a Medium article by now, and should have had a video out about it, and everyone would have been cozy, comfortable, and understanding it. And I messed up. And
okay, so this is in regards to the impermanent loss airdrops that would occur in the event that you suffer impermanent losses.
Correct.
As somebody that funds the LP. Okay, fair enough. But so as I understand it, the downfall of the LP happened for two reasons. One is the drop from the launch of the LP to the following weeks. T Fuel went from whatever 13 cents to 6 cents, and the second thing was the domino effect that started with let's call it FUDA, fear, uncertainty, doubt, and accusations. So I think it started with the video, and then people really jumped on that, and there was a lot of concerns.
Well,
first thing,
go ahead.
I think the quick question that I have for you is, why did it take you so long to respond? This is now 2 weeks. Why are we now making this AMA to talk about this? Why did you not feel compelled to reply to that first video or to the other people that were really flooding the LP?
Sure. Well, I guess I just want to clarify. You said the downfall of the LP in my mind is still functioning as it should, and that's where the IL comes in, and that's where all the added value. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify because I nodded my head yes to it. That I do not feel that way, but I understand some people do feel that way, and anyways, right, yeah, as far as coming out, so okay, so I sat here and said, Jesus, we don't have the IL up. It's starting to slip, and we need to get the IL up. And then these like videos of like math that came out. To be honest with you, and people might be upset with this, I was like, what? Most people are gonna see right through this. What is he even talking about? And I'm not. Listen, I mean, I guess I give the community a lot of credit, and I do, and there's a lot of people out there, but I should have. I'm not giving an excuse. I'm just giving you the reason why, and I'm not saying that, I shouldn't have come out sooner. I felt like, are you kidding me? That people aren't gonna it seemed silly to me, and I was just like, listen guys, the models we got back here, everything, I don't know what are they even showing, and so to be honest, and then it grew and this and that and this and that, and then I was like busy making sure that the IL is going. I'm still running the G World team, this, that, and everything else like that. And I'm juggling all this stuff. And then more and more people came to me and was like, hey man, you need to address this. And I'm like, for real? And they're like, yeah, you got to address this. And I was like, okay. I mean, you were a big advocate telling me that, it was time to address it. And I was like, all right,
Yeah. So, I don't, so the person, Erp, that made the video, he's in TRS, and so you are also in TRS, the Theta Research Squad, and it's just a group of individuals that really try to do our best. Some are more active than others to basically do research, and sometimes we advise Theta Labs if we can, and we really try to educate the community, help out the community, and different people have many roles, but there's a lot of people in there, and so, even though it's a small group, that are very active in the blockchain. And so when he came out and had those concerns, I think that I really think it was necessary to explain some of what he explained in regards to how the LP works and why it's a high risk um, way to invest your tokens. That being said, there was absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, nothing that he showed that was not readily available. I mean, I pretty much it was a meeting paper, how the LP operated, and one of the things I want to get into that I kind of I'm interested in hearing your take on this is this 50% APR. Is it fair to say 50% APR when you have a rebase token? When T-bill is a rebase token?
Yeah, rebase token.
Is it fair to say that you're earning 50% on your investment?
You mean, is it equatable to say when it is a rebase that you're making 50% on it, even though you're rebasing and you're making more percentage on the rebase itself as well?
If that's the way it works.
Yeah. Okay.
So because rebase can go either way, right? So
Correct.
The rebase is just the expansion, the contraction of the money of the T-bill supply. And
Yeah.
if most people, when they hear 50%, it's 50% of a non-rebate of a stable coin, right? So there's two variables there, right?
Well, it's not a stable coin. Just wanted to make
I
sure.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing, and I think, and I'm not saying necessarily this is your fault, but that you should have gone step by step in explaining this. But I'm asking if you there's people that are saying that this was basically along the lines of false advertisement, okay? The 50% APR, because it's not 50% APR when you have a token that can basically change. The quantity of that token that you hold in your wallet can change depending on the value. Am I making sense?
Sure. Yeah. Did you want me to pull up the? I got an image here. Let's see here. At least we, let's, maybe, so it'll be a little bit easier, for me to explain, that, So when like in the AMA, how I was showing that the 50% and, as we all have seen all of that stuff, I don't want to reiterate what we already have seen and talked about and everything like that, where if the, it has to deal with, 0.1% interest, basically, or 1% distribution of the supply back out, so it gets, more supply and it distributes out, 0.1%. And as I was showing in the AMA, some of our rebasing days was 12.9%. So not saying that we take it into a compounding sense, but if you just look at 0.1% compared to 12%, that's 120 days of paying out 50% is a 12% influx. So one single day having 120 days worth of value in that. So I guess what I'm saying is that's why a lot of people are like, how does he say 50% is low, and this whole rebasing 2.0 and what is he balancing and everything like that? We're trying to get a better balance between, that coming in the form of a 12% when we still have other days that need to be covered and to spread it out a little bit differently. So with that being said, that's where the IL coverage comes in, and it comes in the US dollar value. And this has to do with if a multiplier pushes the state into an IL situation. This has to do if T fuel drops in value as an and people remove. This IL coverage has a lot to do with a lot of the mechanisms of the downside of things. It's not always up. So that's why this IL coverage was important as hell, to make sure that before we went forward with this project, we had value of T-bill that could go up, but also we had something that was a value to catch it if it came down. And that's why, like I've been saying, we can get into okay, this governance token value, all that kind of stuff, but it was important that I made sure that there was so much more value left in that governance token that nobody was going to own, that we had it in case we needed it, to make sure that, 50% going up is fine, and then it's coming down and we're still giving 50%, but we got to make sure that that's sustainable. And how we do that is make sure that we still have something that has value that has yet to be owned, and we can give it to them and they own it, and then that has the value that they're intended to have. So I guess, depending on where you want to go from there, if you want me to discuss this a little more.
I have more questions
Sure.
about the IL, quite a bit actually,
Sure.
about the IL and the governance token, but maybe let's take a few steps back and let's
Sure.
go in order of the timeline of what happened. So then, so everyone's excited, and then comes the 2x multipliers, right? What was the idea behind the 2x multipliers? Was that something that you had in mind from the very beginning of the LP?
Yes.
Okay.
It was. Oh, go on. Yeah, go on.
So tell me more about that.
Sure.
What's the point behind that?
So, if we're just going to take a look at raw math and, not an logarithmic or anything like that, and we just say, okay, there was a 12% day, that moved up. And, if we're only paying out 0.1%, that's 120 days. And, looking at it, I was like, well, this APR can handle a little bit more, but we need to make sure that there was something behind it, time, capital. I needed to make sure that this was something that was somewhat earned, and we did want to make sure that there was some value there that could still be airdropped, and that's where the lurker and G pool patrons and everything like that came from. And so we wanted to make sure, like, how can we have some fun stuff to give some of our supporters and the people that supported us to help us get to where we were, like, Big Dog and so on, how can we have some of that? And it was, basically we started formulating how can we have these, a little bit chiseled out so we could give them, but at the same time to make sure that there's value earned out of them too. Time-based minting, and then, selling them and so on and so forth. So anyways, that's where that was all birthed from, was that we have a lot of mechanisms in place, okay? You have the increase in the value of T-Fuel. You have the increase of added T-Fuel into the LP, two different mechanisms that are gravely different or important to sort of get into the concept. And then we have the rebasing that can change up and down. If it's too much APR, then it rebases. If it rebases too much and then it's an IL, we got the IL coverage. If it goes up and basically ends up that 50% isn't even enough, we got the positive rebase. So it constantly has these different mechanisms as it walks up and down the whole different chart of spectrum. So that's basically where we then had the multipliers, and we knew that we had a self-healing and self-correcting model, and we just needed to make sure that we stayed within parameters and we never threw it off the edges. So
okay. So the 2x multipliers, I mean, there are a lot of them that went up for sale, and a lot of them that were also airdropped or rewarded to certain individuals that didn't cover that much T-Fuel. But you're saying, so what I see when you double the APR from the T-bill side is, well, a lot of people get more T-bill in their wallet, and they have a choice. They can compound it, or they can just keep it in their wallet, or they can swap it for T-Fuel. But when they swap it for T-Fuel, that T-Fuel is coming out of the LP, and that's then what results in basically loss of value, and which in turn means that you're not quite getting that APR that you thought you were, because when you have loss of value, you have negative rebasing. And so I think that's something that was not clear to a lot of people, and it sounds like that's part of the mechanics of the LP. And I don't have the models. You certainly do. But if that was a concern, why did we not stop there? Why was there a need to then come through with the merge?
Well, yeah, I guess it was never really a concern. I mean, I guess the thing is maybe I should make it clear. It was always planned for.
Okay.
We had it ready to slide however it needed to slide. With the IL coverage, and the IL coverage makes sure that you with the amount of T fuel you go in with and the amount of T fuel you come back out with. If that's different, that's where that will grab that over in. And basically that's where that slides to. If it slides this way or that way, there's no IL up here. You're getting extra rebases. If it slides down here, okay, this is neutral. You got a couple negative rebases. Then if it slides down here, you got your IL. So that's where it's sort of like a dual token system. You've got the governance token and you've got T-bill. And the governance token and T-bill. And to be honest with you, I don't know that people, will, sort of, see it like this, but the when it comes down to basically how I look at this is, this might sound a bit odd, but I look at this as there's going to be people that are going to welcome IL at some point. And I'll explain, because maybe not. Maybe I might be wrong, because they're going to get the governance token at cost. And they're not going to be able to pick that up any other way at cost. I mean, if somebody's selling it at cost, sure. But the value,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I guess the problem is that first of all, the governance token doesn't exist yet, and the LP does, and well, I want to get into the governance token, but let's just stick a little bit with the multipliers, okay? So we were saying that the merge, or the Great Merge, was actually planned a lot around the same time the 2x multipliers were. That was an idea that was kind of there from the beginning.
I don't know if I would say quite from the beginning. I'd have to take a look at the complete
Okay,
timeline
fair
of
enough.
it.
Fair enough. So basically, it was 40 mega multipliers, 2x multipliers that you can merge, and if you merge two of them, you get 3x, and if you manage to get five, you get a 4x. So in Earp's video, I'm going to get right to it. Okay, there's one person that has been able to merge five of those mega multipliers. Okay, from the infamous wallet number one. So are you wallet number one?
No, absolutely not. I'm not wallet number one.
Do you know who wallet number one is?
No.
Okay.
I do not have a 4x.
You do not have a 4x.
I do not.
All right. And this 4x, the issue here is, the concern is that, and this is one of to me, makes sense actually. If you have somebody with quite a bit of T-bill, and the pool is not large enough, over time, because of their doubling in APR, they will gain an unfair advantage at the other people's expense. Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that?
Well, here's the unfortunate thing is we didn't even have a chance to put out the lending of NFTs before all of this and that and the other thing. And that's a huge metric of these NFTs. And that was where some of this might make more sense of how the modeling works. That wasn't even put public yet. We didn't even have the finalized functionality of these NFTs. And how it's going to work is that the 4x and the 3x is going to be able to be borrowed, but not lent. I want to wait for the announcement for that. It's going to make a lot more sense, but there is a whole lot of mechanism that hasn't even been made public yet, because we're still working on it. And that's the unfortunate thing is now we're sitting here trying to get this stuff to where everybody can now collectively see what it is that we were looking at when we decided to go forward with this, and how this all plays in and how it all balances out and so on and so forth. But we can only move as fast as we can. don't have a magic wand, you know, but yes, I guess the unfortunate thing is that some of this content and math and everything like that was done without the full numbers. And I think that's why I'm not trying to be like, so, I'm trying to feel for people that have put that out there, because I think they truly believe that what they did was the full math, and it's not. And until I have it packaged and ready to shove out there, everybody already doesn't think that what I put out there even makes any sense already. So I'm over scrutinizing every single thing I do to make sure, does this make sense? Hey, mom, read this. You don't know anything about this space, really. Does this make sense to you? What that, you know? So I'm just trying to make sure now with this one, you know, I really want to make sure. And I'll be honest with you, unfortunately, the NFT pooling has been set a little lower in the bracket. Governance token has moved up to our highest priority at this point. We thought we had a different, we had a different timeline. We thought we had time. We thought this, that, the other thing. Now that IL and the governance token is so apparent and so necessary, we had to shift timelines. Pooling NFTs and lending and borrowing and stuff like that off to the side. Okay, right now our main focus is the governance token and what we had planned a little bit lower. So
okay,
I'm sorry to tell people that, because I'm excited about that too. But anyways, so
okay, but it sounds like, you know, the merge was kind of carried out, and there's this pooling component that was not quite finished. Mm-hmm. And I guess it sounds like you weren't expecting the LP to take this dip in this change in priorities. So would you say that, okay, what's the merge, or the great merge? Was that a mistake?
I don't believe so. No, I really don't. I mean, I don't want to even get into like what we did for charities and everything like that.
Right. We are going to get into that because there's some questions about that.
So mathematically, you're asking. I know you're not asking. You know, yes, mathematically, no, I do not believe it was a mistake.
Because even say I had the 4X, right? Say I'm wallet number one. That would be sweet. If I happen to have 10 million T-bill, then there's no sharing of that token. And the only thing that would make the situation better is that if there were millions and millions of dollars in that LP, like a lot of money in the LP, because then that graph in which you see that wallet number one, let's call it, earning having that unfair advantage, that it would take a long time for that to actually happen.
Sure. So let's play that scenario. You know, so let's say that, you know, what's happened has happened here. You know, we had a heck of a lot of money, you know, T-Fuel moving in and momentum and everything like that. And now we're sort of down here, and, you know, now a 4X. What happens with that? What happens? We got a 4X. We're down where we're at right now. Well, I mean, to be honest, what ends up happening is that 4X doesn't get any IL, right? It's causing IL. So it gets no governance token. So what ends up happening is that people that don't have a 4X get governance token. So when we have that vote that comes around, and everybody that hasn't had a 4X, that has all this governance token, they get to sit there and vote that if they don't want a 4X ever again. So right now, in the worst case scenario with the 4X and it potentially, you know, helping lend to some IL, what's happening is they're not getting issued IL. They're not getting issued governance token in an airdrop. People that are experiencing the IL are. So if the person that is now in an unfortunate position where they potentially are helping lead to other people increasing their airdrop of governance token, what ends up happening then is that if they want to vote to keep that 4X around, they either got to come and buy yours or stop staking. You know, there's a whole lot of metrics that are involved that, to be honest, I didn't think we were going to get down to, but now that we are down to it, it's still set up for, if you don't like this, you're going to get your governance token. And if you can actually go back to Big Dog's first interview where we were talking about it. And I said, I wanted to make sure that people understood that if they had a bad experience and they got IL in our LP, That's the people we need votes from. We wanted to, that's why the governance token was such an amazing thing that we could use as this issue, because people that don't have a good experience, they want to change things. So I'll be long gone at some point, dead, and this thing is going to still be living on, is the way I feel and believe. And when that happens, and, you know, and like I've said, we want to turn this over to the community. I wanted to make sure that there was every single thing that we could possibly make sure was there, so that if people had a bad experience, they got governance token, they got to weigh in to vote to change it. Because I'm not going to be able to have the say over this and that and this, change this, change this. And that's why, to be honest, when I saw that, you know, there was an opposite view on math and stuff, I was like, okay, well, you know, let's see the math, let's see what's going on, because I can't be the gatekeeper. I'm not going to be. I'm building this for everyone to take over. Mm-hmm. And,
okay,
you know,
okay.
that's, you know.
So a lot of this kind of comes back to this IO airdrop and governance token. I'm excited to get into that, because they may make a little more sense. And then we also found out that in theory, if the 4x is not utilized to its entire amount, which is 10 million T-bill, whatever is not being utilized by that wallet is going to be activated for the rest of the individuals in the pool
to borrow against. Correct. So basically how it works, and I don't want to get too in depth because I want to make sure it explains not only the 4x but the 3x. And we see a lot of 3x's that, you know, aren't full and aren't being used. So basically how it's going to work is that, you know, we're excluding from the lending, but not the borrowing. We're excluding not only the 3x and the 4x, because those are merged. So any merged NFT will be excluded, and time minted NFTs will be excluded from that as well. And, you know, at some point, if people want to add the time-based back in, or this not back in, or that back in, that's where the governance token is going to come into play. We're doing this the most neutral way we possibly can with the numbers that we have. Then it'll be up to the community to balance out the numbers and decide from there. So what I guess, yes, so the 4x and 3x. And so basically what we wanted to do is, if you don't have any NFT at all, we want to try and get you to that next tier. So you'll be borrowing against the 1.5x that's out there. And if you have a 1.5x already, you're going to borrow and get up to the 1.5x. And then if you have the 1.5, we're going to help you borrow and you're going to get to the 2x. And then that's basically, once you get your 2x, that's where like the echelon stops. So you get to your 2x, and then that's where they're going to be able to tap into what hasn't been used already in the 3 and the 4x's. There's a lot more complexity to it, but, you know, I guess I needed to at least let everybody know that, you know, there's like, basically what we wanted to do was, and then what you're doing is you're sort of lending and borrowing at the same time. You're trying to get yourself to that next echelon. You're able to lend out your level that you've got in your extra space, and then you're able to borrow from the tier above you. Anyways, so that's the basic principle. I mean, you know, there's a lot more in depth in the announcement. You know, I'll explain a lot more of it, you know.
Okay. The merge, it was done by selling stickers, and there was a raffle system. The way that you guys went about the raffle is by using the Chainlink raffle thing. Is that what that is?
Yeah. Sorry, I got the contract here.
So, can you tell me a little bit about that and why you chose that?
Yeah, so, you know, we put the link out there a lot so everyone can see the results of how it all ran. The contract is verified, and the whole contract can be viewed, and anyone that can read Solidity can go in and validate that, yes, this was the contract we used. Yes, this is
audited contract. Verified
yeah.
Or not. Yeah, okay.
This is it. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that this was there. It's been there from the start. You know, and everyone could go take a look at it. And, you know, we're going to use it other times too. So, you know, it's best that, you know, there's going to need to be community people that we trust that can look at code and can come out and weigh in and weigh out. And I feel like that's going to come out with some of the votes. And, you know, we're trying to build that kind of a structure in because, you know, with the edge nodes and the decentralized GitHub and everything like that, that we want to make sure that we've got available, there's going to need to be people that we look to from the community with our governance tokens and say, is there a thumbs up? Is there a thumbs down? Because it's not going to be me sitting there saying, here, and it's not going to be me, somebody that's trusted and saying, here, take a look at all of this. It's going to be, and we're trying to, that's where like the academy comes in. We're trying to help train people so that they can look at this through. And, you know, this might be a perfect example of one of the ones that we start out with, where we show people what they need to look for. And, you know, everyone's going to have to learn how to speak this language, unfortunately, because we need to vet things. We need to make sure that they're safe. You know, I'm going to keep my investment in it until the day I peel out of this world. And I want to make sure that, listen, the governance token airdrop, as a developer and a team, we're not getting any for free. So we're not weighing in. We have to earn ours just like everyone else earns it, either through our IL or through running oracles or so on and so forth. You know, I just want to make sure, because I know that Theta community has seen that some of these governance tokens have gotten given to, like, you know, Theta Labs and so on and so forth. And I understand, you know, well, you know, somebody comes along and they vote and, you know, it's not the way that the team wants it. Well, it's not the way the team wants it. It's the way the community wants it. And that's what is inherent, and that's what everyone's going to see. Birthing a metaverse, a world, a whole suite of things that are ran by the community is the whole goal of all of this. And, I hope that we get people that are pillars that stand up and that can help decipher this stuff for people. I'm hoping that a year from now we get to watch a video of somebody and I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see how he dissects this and how he's going to tell everybody and what his thought is on all of this. And, you know, you get what I'm saying? I guess that's the,
no,
I'm hoping for that.
I appreciate the vision. That's a part of like a lot of our believers here and what decentralization is. That resonates certainly with a lot of us. So I appreciate that vision. Going back to the raffles. So you chose 5 different influencers. Can you tell me a little bit about why those 5 influencers? What relationships you personally have with them? What relationship do they have with Gpool, G-World?
Sure. All right. Yeah. So, you know, I guess we'll go in order. Big Dog, you know, he, you know, was someone that really helped do a lot of the research with Research Gnome. A lot of that has been, you know, sort of birthed into, you know, that whole room and, you know, that whole section. And we really felt like he helped support Gpool and its growth. He, at one point, was an advisor for Gpool. He does not have a role with Gpool. Well, Gpool had to go with a restructuring, and it's now G-World, and he is not affiliated with G-World. He's not an advisor anymore. It was just basically we transitioned, and, you know, we sort of fell out of, you know, communication over the, you know, the months and the years, so it was just that we transitioned. And so that was basically how that had happened. Advisor, supporter, some more of the support for, we tried to pick people that help support, get the community, you know.
Do any of these guys, do any of these 5 individuals have a stake in Gpool, in G-World?
No, not like I said, Big Dog was, you know, with Gpool advisor, and now we've transitioned corporate structure to G-World, and none of them have anything to do with G-World. None of them have any affiliation with that. It was purely then, you know, like Alien-like and so on and so forth. It was based on them being supporters of Gpool, getting us to where we needed to be, you know, helping us raise, you know, the funds. We had our own patrons at a point where that was helping pay some of the costs. And so some of them helped point people to our patron to help us. And, people gave what they could, $5 or whatever a month, so they really helped us, when we needed, the help. And so it was basically, we just, selected them based on the help that they'd given us.
Okay. Gotcha. And so they each chose a charity. Yeah, so as I understand it, basically the breakdown was 10% G World, 10% Open Data, 20% for the influencer, and 60% for the charity, which is the great part here. And each of these 5 influencers chose a charity. So you have actually shared with me the proof that these charities have received their funds, and actually, or at least most of them, and I took it upon myself to actually call 2 of them and was able to verify that. But why haven't you shared that with the community?
Be blatantly honest, I didn't think I needed to. I mean, that might be a bit arrogant, silly oversight on my behalf. I guess at this point, that's a learning experience. I'm a veteran, I would have never thought that people would think, my fellow brothers and sisters in different capacities, that I wouldn't have, given that. It's just mind blowing to me.
It's crypto.
I know.
I can't take it personal.
I know. I'm not taking it personal. And to be honest with you, like I said, it was I look back at it and say that was an oversight. I could have redacted some of the information off of it. And, it doesn't matter, really how much information, I redact or do, and I show receipts, I guess, you're only as good as, Teddy B came out and he said that his charity received it. And then I saw people think that didn't actually happen. Sweet Teddy B. I was just like, what? Would never have thought. I said, well, I can redact this stuff and show it. I've got it here, if you'd like to see some of it.
I think it'd be very helpful. I think this is a big deal, right? 60%, a lot of people, and it certainly, I did. It made me feel good about buying some tickets because I knew where it was going to.
Yeah, I think, we're going to do a lot of good. I can't wait to hear some of the stuff.
I called one of these charities, and the lady answered. She's like, what did she say? She's like, oh, you mean the very generous charity that we got? This we're not.
Now listen, you can't claim that for yourself and try to write it off on taxes just because you're the one that called. She's like, oh, I've been waiting for you to call.
I'm like, okay.
I'm curious. So what did you say? You say, yeah, I'm part of the community that donated it to you, or what? How did that go?
Okay. It was pretty straightforward. I said I donated to the organization that did this fundraiser, and I kind of want to make sure that you guys got it. And
cool.
And so yeah. So I didn't call all 5 of them, but I did call 2 of them, and they were like very much blown away by the donations.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of blown away comments and stuff. Now this one's big dogs here. Okay. Unfortunately, this one isn't the best of a receipt. This one's just an email. I blocked out the gentleman over there, and he wanted to get me swag and the address and stuff like that, and very nice. We've been getting a lot of good responses. And so this is what I can show of this one. There can be more due diligence, done and shown, but for, what I've got right here, and then, we got alien likes. Here's the receipt. This one was done through a more traditional pathway where we were able to get a receipt and to the email address and so on and so forth. And then let's see here. Okay, we got Michelle White Doves here. Yeah.
ETC.
Yeah, I know, right? So then we've got okay, here's Teddy B. So what happened with Teddy B's is that we had the Bitcoin, and then the price of Bitcoin dropped in the transition of period. So then I had to kick an extra out of our funds for an extra 20,000 in. So that's why there's two of them. I noticed when it, I was like, oh man, the dang thing dropped. So anyways, instead of, so we kicked that in. And I think, okay, so yeah, and then with Digital Daves, we're still waiting. They have.
Wait, so
go ahead.
Hold on. So you're saying T-fuel price dropped, so
the T-bill price, or I'm sorry, the Bitcoin price dropped too. Everything drops,
right,
Bitcoin drops. So we had it already in Bitcoin. I mean, shit, the T-fuel dropped too, and I had to cover some of that as well. I'll be honest, I'll have to do the exact numbers, but from a rough estimate of numbers, we actually lost money doing this event, trying to cover the U.S. dollar value that we promised.
You went and honored the original USD dollar value that was raised. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So we tried to stick to that $6 per sticker, even though when we had received it, or when we finally made contact and figured out how to get this across to the people that we had to contact and stuff, the price was dropped or changed. I mean, as you remember, the whole time the contest was going, the price was slowly moving down, and so we ended up with our 10% cut, and with Wounded Warriors and specific, when we were doing that in the height, I think it was in the 20s T-fuel, and we had some logistical things that needed to be lined up with them. There was more talks with their financial department and stuff, and as we were talking, it was going down and down, and we were able to get a little bit across, and then finally I came to them and I said, look, this is how much T-fuel you have left. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to hold off? Do you want me to keep giving you a little bit and stuff once we finally figured out a solution where I could finally get them the final full lump sum? And they were like, well, it's your gift, so you make the decision. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of responsibility, man. So basically I made the decision. We got the final bit across, and that was actually through a wire through my bank. So that doesn't have information that I can redact and show. It would just look like silly paper because of all the sensitive information, bank accounts and stuff. So, they're talking about wanting to make sure that we get stories of who we're helping and stuff, and I'll share that stuff. And they wanted my size of shirt so they could send me a shirt and everything, and we texted and so on and so forth. So
that's not too difficult to verify. It's just a phone call. It's just I mean, it took me like 10 minutes to verify two of the cherries. So then the last one is the I've been hearing about, this could be a little bit problematic, is the Digital Daves charity. Where are we at with that?
Okay, yeah. So still got the funds in that initial wallet that they get put in by the smart contract. It's got to be changed into a local currency. So my team's going to reach out. Digital Dave's, working on reaching out so that we can get this across to them. We're just trying to figure out the logistics behind it. With me trying to hold the US dollar value for a lot of these, that one I'm just going to have to give them what T-fuel there is and what we raised. Just like I finally had to do Wounded Warriors, and it basically it was just too much for me to keep covering as this market went down. And I will make sure, I've told Wounded Warriors that, we set a certain amount of US dollars, and I will make sure that they're my first go-to charity whenever I donate, because I don't like, saying one thing and not being able to deliver on it. So they, while they're very nice and they're very oh, don't worry, this is great. To me, I want to make sure, so anyways, neither here nor there.
That's yet to be determined.
We got it all across to them. It ended up being about 1.5 million. So if you remember when we first raised it, what that T-fuel was worth was 3.3. So it ended up, because of all the dropping and everything like that, I covered as much as I could as I was getting these small ones across. But basically what ended up happening is it only ended up being 1.5. And I hate saying only. They're so ecstatic. They're gonna show us who it helps and all this kind of stuff. And it's a huge amount, and we're doing great with it. It's just that'll stick with me until I clear that up. That's just my own personal thing. It's nothing that the community needs to do or anything like that.
It would be great to follow up on that and to share that with the community, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of data, community, investors and people that would love to hear an update about that from the Wounded Warriors project and who's benefiting. So it'd be great to follow up on that.
I can't wait to hear either. I'm excited.
Okay, so
we're close to
hour
and 40 minutes in.
Yeah. So let's maybe take another 10 to 15 minutes here, because we still gotta. So a question that I have about the T-bill itself is that I noticed that T-bill in the LP, when this is happening, is no longer even close to $1. I thought the whole point of this rebase token is that it would rebase to the value of the dollar. Can you explain a little bit as to why that's happening?
Sure, yeah. So the 2019 CPI is the target for it, and when we have certain market conditions, a fall in T-Fuel's price, taking T-Fuel out of the LP and the ratio coming a little bit, further apart. We have a lowering in the T-bill value because the T-Fuel that backs it is no longer as valuable. Either less of it or the value of T-Fuel has gone down. So when that happens, we have to then take T-bill out of circulation so that it balances back as a denomination back to a 2019 CPI value. You can pick whatever value you want. You can pick the price of gold. You can pick all of the different things that you could imagine. And there are some things we're working on back here, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyways, rebasing is just basically a mathematical algorithm that redenominates the token back to the value at which you are trying to achieve, the target. So what ends up happening is, as that comes down, more is taken out of circulation, or as that goes up, more is added to circulation. So basically what we're seeing that is coming down right now, just like when we saw it was going up. And when it was going up and it was going up at a higher velocity, we were seeing days that it was $1.30, $1.36, $1.30, and we were having big rebases, and it still was outpacing, and we were still over target. Then we had a bunch of days that were floating in and out of target and up and down and everything. We were sideways a bit, and right now we're seeing that it's coming down and it's outpacing when it's coming down. So eventually it's going to find the equilibrium, balance out, and then you'll see it, come. I don't want to make predictions. I'm just saying that the markets, that's basically how it works, is that it finds the balance of T-bill and the value of T-fuel, and it balances the supply to make sure that the denomination of T-bill is held to the target, and the target right now is the CPI of 2019.
Okay, so essentially, it's not able to rebase fast enough. Is that?
Yes.
Because what? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so it's back up to 22 because it was at some point like 50 cents. Okay, got it. It's just as simple as that. It's just there. So there's a cap on the rebase. There's a percent, and there's a percent reduction into a 24-hour period that the supply of the total supply of T-bill can be reduced by. Is that why?
No. I mean, here's the thing. It's not that it's like a cap. It's that it's a theoretical maximum, meaning that there's no more numbers to give. So, I wanted to make sure I made that point clear. We probably should have used different verbiage. We sort of took the same verbiage from Ample, and basically, it's a cap because that was all it could do. So it's not. So here's the thing is that there's no cap on the top. To be honest with you, there's no theoretical maximum is what we should be saying on the top. And the theoretical maximum on the bottom is only because it can only go to zero. So there's a theoretical maximum that it can only go to zero, but it can go up to $20, $100. I don't think we'll ever see it. But anyways, so I guess what I'm saying is when you take a look at that, there were days that even though we were hitting the 12 and the almost 13% rebases, it still wasn't able to bring the price down enough. So just like this, we're hitting these days and it's, the price moving up is still going to need more rebasing. So that's basically.
So speaking of the Ampleforth protocol, which is where T-bill came from, right? Has that been audited, and is that something that the community is going to have access to?
So Ampleforth has been audited, and we're finding that a lot of people, even despite it being audited, want us to audit it. So we're exploring that. Something else that we're finding the community wants is that even though Theta Labs themselves put the Uniswap version 2 smart contract code on for the LP, they want that audited too. So we're trying to work out paying for Theta Labs code that they put out there to be audited too. So we're trying.
That code hasn't been audited. Theta Swap.
Yes, the same way that Ampleforth has been audited, because we used audited code just like they used audited code, and it was already audited before. So we're sitting here saying, well, these the community's really asking for us to re-audit code. So we'll re-audit the code, and that some of that code we didn't put on there, but we're using it, and we understand the principle that people want to see these. And so even though Theta Labs put it on, they use the audited code, we're working to see if we can, pay for the audit for them, because we're using it,
How different is T-bill code than the Ampleforth? What modifications were made?
Few number modifications basically to it. Oh, there we go. Sorry. A few number modifications to it. Basically, also what the bigger change was how the reward structure worked out of the LP. So that's where a lot of our, sort of say magic sauce happens is that the reward mechanism, the structure, everything that we built around this was a lot of the change. And why doesn't it perform like Ample if it's a direct, and that's because there's a lot of ancillary things to change than just the core code. But yeah, and I will say that the Uniswap version 2 LP code that Theta used, some people might even notice this in some of the wallets that they use. They didn't even change what an LP token is called. It's it's a UN, or is it a UVI or a UIV-V2. So like they even left the labeling that Uniswap left in there. So we had discussed with Theta Labs if maybe what we could do is if we bring over version 3, we can change that, because at this point, JE didn't want to change that just in case there were already coins issued that, and they changed the name. Anyways, so that's just an ancillary, what the differences are and things that, we would definitely look at if it's going to be a version 3 that comes over. I don't know if we do the version 3. Obviously, we're going to bring Balancer over. Now, Balancer coming over is definitely an audit because of the changes that need to happen to it. We'll audit it. We'll audit, everything that they want us to audit, So yeah.
So at some point, the community can expect an audit to be shared.
Correct. And like I said, even with the code that Theta Labs put out there too. I mean, to be honest, I don't even know. Like, I guess we've thought through it and we said, should we audit the Edge node code? That was never audited, So, I mean, I don't want to get in. I'm sure Theta Labs at some point plans on auditing it. And we don't want to keep being the one, but, we use it heavily and people are in it. And, if something were ever, vulnerability or an exploit or something like that, like we're starting to sit there and say, well, what responsibility, where do we draw the line? So, potentially we're going to maybe even explore that where, the Edge nodes is something that we heavily participate in, and we have our our user base that uses them, and it's not been audited. So potentially maybe we should at least maybe see if Theta wants us to pitch in or what.
What gives T-bill value?
Sure, yeah. The T fuel as it comes into the LP is what gives T bill the value. So to get the T bill out of the LP, you add T fuel. That T fuel's in the LP, and that's what gives the T bill the value. For right now, like I said, there's this is the metaverse liquidity token. And like I said in the AMA, we know everybody really loves the LP and everything like that, but there's going to be other use cases for T-bill as a form of currency, and a lot of other things that we're working on right now. But if you're asking me what gives it value right now, that's what gives it value right now. In the future, that's all in the future. I try not to talk in that kind of like, well, when this, if that, all that stuff. But I found, and people are like, well, all it is the LP that gives it value. And I'm like, no, I didn't want to talk about this stuff in a futuristic sense, but there's other stuff that's going to give this value. And I was just like, well, I guess this is what I get for not talking about some of this stuff until we have it ready, anyway.
I think that's something that a lot of people are frustrated about. And I don't know how I feel about this, because to me, it was very clear. In its current form, the LP is very vulnerable because of what you just said. What gives it value is T fuel, and if T fuel stops coming in, then the T bill starts losing value.
Or if T fuel goes to zero, it loses it as well.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of people are upset about, and so I guess the question to you is. Yet again, was this a premature launch of an LP without allowing T-bill to have its own inherent value?
No, I don't believe so at all. I mean, I guess we could sit here and say, well, here we are looking at, IL, and now we're getting a second token, and that's got to create value and so on and so forth. But I guess to me is that this was going to bound and keep building and adding value to something that already had value. It was never like, we need to make sure that this has all the value in the world. I mean, if we really want to take a step back and think of Theta had no value for years, a year and a half at least. It had no value, and it was already out there. It was already trading. People already, applied this futuristic value to it. They've been working for years, and they still don't have every component built and everything yet. And to us, we knew that it was only going to just keep adding more and more value. As a matter of fact, T-bill is, when it was released, and it inherently started having value instantly. Unlike Theta and so on and so forth, it didn't have the tangibility behind it. And that was because it had the T fuel backing it. And so, to be honest, we thought, heck, we're ahead of the game already too. Like, I mean, we're already got a value in this utility of this token, ahead of the curve.
Yeah. But the moment that people start pulling that T fuel out, I think it was a race there to not be the last one in the LP,
which is a shame, because their value is still here. And that's, I guess, the thing is that I know people sit there and say, well, when is this governance token? How is this value and everything like that? And I guess the thing is to us is that this is where there's got to be a little bit of futuristic value that we're showing. This is what we're building. This is where the value is going to be derived from with all of this. And give us a couple of, months of building and everything like that, and we're going to start, putting value onto this. This was all supposed to be like a bonus, a gift. This governance token, we didn't foresee IL, but we always knew it was going to be there. There was a chance. That's why we had the plan in place for it. But I guess to us, it's more of, we're adding value to it. And this is, I don't look at this as a race to get out. And I mean, I guess it's just because I see of how much value is still there that hasn't been owned by anybody. But, I
So
hear what your point,
what are people that are still in the LP? I mean, that are down quite a bit. I mean, we have people that have lost a lot of money. And so we were going to talk a little bit about the people that have cashed out at a loss. They're going to benefit from an IL airdrop, which we've yet to cover. But what about the people that, they believe in G World, they believe in the Guard, and they're going to stick it out?
Sure.
How are they going to benefit?
Okay, so if we look on the screen here, and this isn't completely, fleshed out, I just want to make sure everyone understands. I'm using this as an example, but basically we have the IL coverage. So basically, this individual is in the LP, let's potentially say still right now, and this is their numbers. This is their TVL plus their IL. We're going to put that down there. Now, what ends up happening is, as long as you are still in the LP, we're going to, part of your extra IL is that we are also going to get you what your worst day would have been on an average basis. So we're not going to force you, if you're still in and you still have, your 70% or more in the LP from where you started, we're going to make sure that you have your worst day ever locked in. Okay, because the reason we're doing this isn't like to incentivize people to stay in that aren't comfortable. That's not it. This is to make sure that we don't have a bunch of people that look at this $1,200 and say, well, if I don't capture this right now, as the pool starts going back up, this number's going to go down. People are going to sit here and stare at this, and they're going to go, well, it's $1,200. Now it's $1,000. Now it's $900. And we're sitting here, and the LP is going up and up and up and up, and everyone's looking at this, and they're going, I'm losing value. And so what we wanted to make sure was that they don't feel like they have to capture it. If they're in there and they're staying there, we'll make sure that you don't have to exit to make sure that you get this so that you can stay in, feel good. So you'll get your extra IL as long as you don't take out more than 30%. So this is how the math works. And basically it's to incentivize people from not creating more IL just to capture this governance token value. And not to mention, we want to make sure that as this value is going up, because they've held out and they're there and they believe and they understand and this, that, the other, that we want to make sure that they still get the governance token and not just the people that fled and left and so anyways, that's basically how that works.
Gotcha. So it sounds like there's an incentive to stay there because you will actually be airdropped some governance token equal to, you said, the worst 24-hour period. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So basically we're watching the numbers, and let's say that, I don't know, 3 days ago was the worst that anybody numbers was going to look. You would get that. As far as we got to do an average over the day, so just in case the market moves for 10 minutes, we don't want to make sure that everybody goes, now you're going to have somebody go out there and try to push it down to make sure everybody's got the worst. Anyways, we want to make sure that there wasn't any gaming. So we want to make sure it was an average over a 24-hour period. And so basically we're sitting there saying that even though you didn't pull out, we're going to give you that IL as if you were to have. And the thing about it is we want to make sure that everyone understands that there is still, a bit of airdrop that everyone, will get that was in. And if you stay in, you get more of this. It's a longer period of time. But anyways, the big thing is that if, let's just hypothetically say that the market doesn't change, everything doesn't change, and we're getting ready to airdrop the LP or the governance token. What's going to happen then is if you ended up where this was your worst day and we're still only sitting at a 1,200 right now, you potentially are going to end up basically getting your extra IL with your airdrop. And people don't have to sit there and say, well, this dropped and this is where I'm at now, and so on and so forth. So that's basically how that all is going to function. And like I said, this is not, I want to make it clear to everybody, this is not me sitting there saying we're going to give you extra. If you stay in, we're going to give you extra IL, even though you're uncomfortable with it. We want this for people that are comfortable, and we don't want to force people to create an IL event. IL in permanent loss versus a permanent loss. We don't want them to turn the IL into a permanent loss, forcing it so that they capture all this value from this governance token. So That's the principle. It's not to make people that are uncomfortable to feel a little bit better about being comfortable, and so on and so forth.
Is this window that we're looking at here, is that going to be visible there in the staking page?
Yes, this will be there.
So will people be able to see like how their IO
Yes.
is changing? And obviously, if you've pulled your funds and you still sync your MetaMask to the staking page, you'll still be able to see that.
Yep, you'll see what happened.
Okay.
You turned your impermanent loss into permanent loss.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's get into this governance token.
Sure.
Obviously, TNT20 token. So G World is going to have a governance token and a utility token. T-Bill, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a governance token, not only just for, it's a governance token that has an umbrella over a lot of things. So we're at the 2-hour mark. I'll explain, I'll touch on it a bit, and give a couple examples that I've given out there. I want people to think of, and understand a bit of the principles and what we're talking about here. We're talking about value creation and, so on. So real general, look at it is, we have the oracles that pay out, and we have oracles that watch the price of things, and we have oracles that do a lot of things. And it's always been on our trajectory to make sure that these oracles are ran by the community. And so it's going to sort of be like a chain link, not exactly, but you're going to need to have governance token to be able to run an oracle. You're going to get then paid in governance token for your participation as an oracle. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that this is where the governance token, with the value and everything, there's not free coins given to the development team. There is sort of like skin in the game to earn these governance tokens. It's not, aside from the people that stake Theta and T-Fuel and, the T-Bill and the LP, they're going to get a little bit of an airdrop. Now that's going to be really the only thing that comes out of sort of quote unquote thin air. So this is a value that had been given. So with that value, now you get derived the value transfer over into the governance token. Running an oracle, you actually have to run the oracle to earn some more. So all along the way, it's going to be either that you're putting, capital in, or you're putting time in, you're putting resources in. That's how the governance token gets issued then.
And what's the asset backing the governance token?
Yep. So basically, the governance token is a TNT20 token, and I guess the way to look at it is just like Theta. Theta is a governance token, and they issued it, and basically the value was created from all of its ancillary and the network. And so basically, like I'm saying, is that, you've got the browser that we're coming out with. Now, it's not going to work just like Brave, but if you looked at it and you inherently said, okay, just with what they've put out there, there's about 4 to 5 coins that this potentially could have been. They could have all raised ICOs, and all of that value could have been owned by people that put into ICOs and such. We didn't do that on purpose to make sure that in case of this kind of an event happening, there was value there that could be captured and given out. And instead of having an ICO for Chainlink, instead of having an ICO for like a Brave token and so on and so forth, we are building all of this stuff that has no ownership and it has real value. So this is where it would be almost like Theta releasing Theta and giving the token to people, and it was only earned when you ran a Guardian node, just like old school mining was. It was only earned when you mined and gave a result. There was no pre-mine, there was no ICO, there was none of that. So this is inherently birthed from some of my lineage and my experience and so on and so forth. So that is one of the ways to look at this governance token is that it's going to be brought into existence when there's something that has a value that has been exchanged, whether it's a token, buying it, or whether it's IL, or whether it's you running a node, or an oracle, or
So the voting is going to be a utility of that governance token. So there's no direct asset of backing that governance token from the very beginning. Well,
I'll tell you, when we create the LP, So basically what's going to happen is, I don't have a firm date on this, but basically, as you can see under the screen, it says, after your first week, after the first week of the airdrop. Okay. So I did go over this in Big Dogs, but just a real quick touch on this. Basically what's going to happen is that these airdrop amounts are going to be handed out. Okay. At the same extent, then we're going to take, T-bill, and we're going to create, this is T-bill that we own as a team, like what I've bought into, what I own. I'm going to take some of ours with some of our governance token that we've earned, not airdrop for free and everything like that, and we're going to create the LP. And that's going to be what sets the initial value. And then people are going to be able to take their airdrop, either sell it, or, some people are going to want to buy more because they're going to want to run an oracle and so on and so forth. But after that first week of trading of the airdrop and potentially maybe it finding its bottom, we're going to start then issuing people that turn their IL in permanent loss into a permanent loss. And that's where then that's going to come out. And that's where it will have a value. And then we're going to issue the tokens that have that equal value. And how it's going to work is this, is that we're going to take a snapshot of everybody that's owed their IL coverage. And we're going to then organize all of that snapshot into a number sequence. So this wallet is number 1. This wallet's number 2. And every 10 minutes, the wallet next in line is going to get their IL coverage airdrop given to them. And then they get to go and either affect the market positively, negatively. And then we look at the US dollar value for the next 10 minutes. That person gets theirs. Then so on and so forth. So as the market's changing, the tokens you're getting are going to change equal. And it's going to be one wallet every 10 minutes until it's exhausted and everybody has their IL coverage. And it's going to be, the wallets are going to be picked at random, just like we did with the Chainlink. So I encourage everybody to go take a look at the Chainlink code just so that you can then vet it and make sure that you're happy with it. Because we're going to use it as some of the core principle, but it's a pretty simplistic code. I know that there's people out there that know Solidity and they potentially could help vet it other than just us.
Okay. So there's going to be basically it's going to be a pair that there's going to be a liquidity pool really for this governance token.
Absolutely.
That you can really trade. Is it what's the name of the governance token?
We haven't really released it yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the announcement to do it.
Okay.
So basically what will happen is the governance token and T-bill will have an LP. Okay. T-Fuel and T-bill will have an LP. And with that, we'll have it to where you can simply swap T-Fuel for governance token and it jumps through T-bill to do it. And it'll be a single button. We've got to set it up, but basically it'll go and it'll do a double jump. And in your wallet, you'll swap, T-Fuel for governance token and vice versa. And that will help with T-bill being that center peg in there.
And so hopefully I'm assuming will you be laying out a roadmap, a clear roadmap to help people, the community, understand where this value is coming from for the governance token?
Yes. And that's sort of why we've had to jump this up in the echelon of things, is because now there's going to be a lot of people asking when, what, and a lot of things that we need to now get ready and sort of package, we have a different timeline back here now than what we did 3 weeks ago. So yes, we're working on that. We want it clear, yes.
Can you stake the governance token?
Yes. I mean, in the sense that it'll have a T-bill LP. So
not in the traditional staking.
Well, you can look at your Oracle as staking as well. Yeah, where you're taking your governance token and you're putting it into Oracle and you're earning, So, some people call that staking too. It's a pretty loose term nowadays with what staking is.
Okay. So what's it going to take for this LP to come back?
To me, we're right here. It's looking like the people that haven't understand the full concept, they've pulled their T-Fuel out, and now we're sitting here with the IL coverage. To me, I feel like people now inherently are starting to see a bit more of the full picture. Something like I said, we've messed up on. We should have had this visible from the start, a discussion, and then people were going to start seeing their IL coverage. I don't know that we could have, we could have. I don't know that we would have had the foresight. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to go back and say, well, we could have done this, we could have done this. We absolutely had the IL coverage ready to go, and then we just sort of stopped it in transition. But I guess what I'm saying is that we, as far as what would the IL coverage have the value of, that needed to be bumped up in time, and we wouldn't have bumped that up until the event like this.
Okay. Do you have a rough guess as to when this the first IL airdrop will take place?
Yeah, I'm trying not to hold hard fast to a date, but I will tell you that it is the highest priority now. And the thing of it is that, here's the thing. If we rush this airdrop out and it doesn't have, and the IL still only has a future promise, but just has a market, and yes, you'll be able to stake it, and with the LP and T-bill and everything like that, I don't want to sort of make that same kind of like thing where, T-bill was backed by T-fuel and it had a value, and now we're going to have T-bill out there in an LP with the governance token. But I guess, my hope is that we have at least one of the things across the finish line that people can vote with and use the governance token. Am I hard fast with saying that absolutely needs to come out? No, but it needs to be very close. So we're trying to expedite to make sure that we have functionality, as well as we have, we have this in a reasonable time, because we understand that now there's a value that needs to be given with it.
Yep. No, I agree. I think it's imperative the community kind of understands that, because ultimately, as soon as people get that governance token, they're just going to try to capitalize on it, and then we'll get the same effect, unfortunately. So good. That's I think the last question that I have a lot more, but we've gone quite a bit. G World. What is G World doing in regards to this metaverse? As I know, the metaverse can mean a lot of things, but what's going on with that?
Where are we at here? We got 2 hours and 11. Listen, man.
If you could give me like a 2-minute summary.
Yeah. So here's what I want everyone to. You know what? I'll give a little teaser. Okay. We want to do something where we're doing something where we can mix reality as we know it, physical reality, with augmented reality. Okay, so we want to make sure that the experience and the transition, everybody's not ready for stark staring at an avatar that looks like them. Okay, that's why we've had the G Twins, and they've had sort of like a distinct look about them.
I was hoping to have a G Twin.
Well, we can get you one. We can get you one. But anyway, so with that, with that being said, is this okay? Now think about this. Just a little teaser. So one of the examples that we want to be able to help bridge reality with virtual reality and so on and so forth is, let's say that we had a fundraiser where we went out and we put up the money and we planted 100,000 trees. And then we sold each one of those tree NFTs that we planted, and it helps offset the cost of planting the physical trees in this world. And you now have an NFT of a tree to go plant in your section of the world. That is somewhat of what I want people to start thinking of when I'm telling you that we have a whole big thing. Think about it this way too. Just a tiny teaser. Let's say that tree that you planted makes cotton, or a fabric-based material, bamboo shoots, that you can spin into fabric. And you take that now fabric, and now we know that G Twins are going to have wearables with their clothing and everything like that. Well, before an artist can go and take that t-shirt and get a t-shirt as a blank canvas to make a t-shirt for the G-Twin, they need, let's say, 2 bushels of cotton or a bushel of, bamboo. So basically you'll go and you'll plant your bamboo and then basically take it from there and then go and sell it to the artists that want to make the clothing for the G-Twins. So I'm not going to get really in depth, but I need people to understand that we're trying to mix reality where, like, let's say that you're almost like a Pokemon Go, right? Where you go out, you capture a tree, you get those seeds from those trees, and you go and you plant them in G World. I don't want to go too in depth, but just a little teaser. There's a whole lot of dynamic involved. We've really taken a lot of time to figure out how do we cross reality, how do we better our environment, our life that we live in the physical world, while we're trying to give people a virtual world. Because we want to make sure that it's not just a world that gets sucked into and everybody gets sucked into it and they forget about this world out here. So that's a big core example, is making sure that we have that lineage. I really don't want to get too much more into it. There's because it just leads to a lot more questions, and there's so many answers and such a huge, amazing vision that we're building back here.
And this is something that the G World is committed to.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, G World will be the first one to develop a metaverse using the Theta blockchain.
Yes. And we want to make sure we lay the foundation. Our tools that we're using, we want to make sure they're open source. I made that all pretty clear, but I just like to reiterate,
And T-Bill will be the utility token of that metaverse.
T-Bill will be the utility token of that metaverse, and the governance token will be the governance token.
Okay. Wow, that sounds very ambitious.
Yeah, so, you would be surprised with how much of the stuff has been sort of already forged out. Yeah, we're blessed, man. We're very blessed with the talented team that we've got. And
that makes sense why you have such a big team. Yeah, man, I have more questions, but I think that we've covered a lot of the concerns that the community has. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, to wrap it up, it sounds like some of these things could have been handled better. It sounds like you are going to now do your best to have this IL airdrops work the way they were intended to. I don't think that you predicted that this correction in the LP would take place, but now it sounds like it's time to get to work.
Yes, that's the best thing I think everyone needs to understand is that the harder we work, the more that gets created to this IL coverage. And that's a really it's a really good feeling for us back here is that this is sort of going off to one of the plans. We didn't want to go off this way, but we had it planned, and here we are, and we're ready for it, and we're ready to bring that value, and that's where it's all derived from, is our hard work and the more we're building, and that's what we're focused on. I need everyone to understand is that in my eyes, and I'm sure, maybe people have different outlooks, is that when there's hard times, there's really like 3 different types of people. And there's some people run and hide and they get frightened. Then there's some people like I feel like I am, and I want to build. I want to create. I don't like to try to get weed killer. I like to grow more grass. I like to crowd out the weeds with more healthy grass. I like to build. I like to create. I like to build things that crowd out the bad. And then there's some people, there's 3, there's the people that, that hide, there's the people that build and create, and then there's the people that just destroy more around them. They see that there's things that are bad and they just want to keep destroying, and they get their energy out by destroying. But anyways, I just want to let everyone know my energy gets put out by creation and building, and we're ready to do it, and we're doing it.
Yep. Awesome, man. Yeah, I really, my intent for this interview was really to, ultimately, like, why am I doing this? What do I have in it? And I really have invested a lot of time into, not as much time as you have, into the Theta ecosystem, really, into Theta network, for lack of a better way. My wife asks me sometimes why I'm so obsessed, and I think it's just so cool to here's this company, right? Because Theta is a company that it's blockchain technology, and we know what the end goal is for that technology. And somebody like me, who is by no means a developer, can start to learn and network and build on it and kind of like help it grow. And I think that's just so exciting because you can't. That's not something you can do with traditional companies, right? You either work for the company or you don't. And it's just been really neat, getting involved with a lot of different projects, and when you're vested in it, you really want things to succeed. And a big part for me, I mean, I met some amazing individuals. I think I have like four people that I would consider very close friends that I haven't even met them in person. And I really, truthfully, I really care about the community. I think, I've talked to hundreds of people. I've spent hours talking to dozens of people, and while there's some not so great human beings, the vast majority of the people that I've met are legit. And so it really bothers me to see what has happened here over the past couple of weeks, because I see G World as, from everything that I learned, from being a newbie in the blockchain, as this entity to look up to, and the guard to well, obviously being responsible for all of this. And so, you know, I'm not able, I don't have time. I practice full-time medicine, so I don't have time to do, or the ability to do full-time research into some of the allegations against you. But, by no means have I, from the moments that I've talked to you, even though you have certainly had your journey in crypto, and it does not look like it's been easy. By no means have I ever felt that you are this person that, some people are making you out to be, and that really, if you're it really kind of upsets me, because it's caused a divide within the community. And so my goal for this really was to at least provide some of the answers that some people are looking for, and to really kind of, make sure that we put our heads down and continue to work and help out each other as we continue to do what we can in our little sphere of influence within the Theta ecosystem to push things along. And so, I hope that some people will watch this and maybe benefit from this. Again, I don't really have any other financial incentive or anything else like that, other than I want Theta to do very well. And I certainly don't think that, all this stuff that's going on social media helps us at all. I think that when people learn about the token and they start researching it and they start seeing, all these all these things that are being said, I think that if that was me coming to Theta and I was seeing that, I would walk away pretty quickly. And so I think we need to put this in the past. I think we need to kind of, figure out where we stand, and if people don't like the way things are going, maybe Theta's not for you. But let's all start to come together here and unite, because I think that's the neat thing about, because I've paid attention to other blockchains, certainly not as much as Theta, but I think there's something special in this micro community, and this is why I'm so into this, Theta conference, an ability to have people like actually get together face to face and meet each other, because we've all talked to each other on social media, on Discords and whatnot, and yet have never known each other. So that's just a little bit of my intention, behind why I offer to do this. I'm not a professional interviewer by any means, and so I hope that at least some questions were answered today, and maybe if we need to do this moving forward, I'll be more than happy to do it. Maybe we can do it a little bit more efficiently next time. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that out there. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate you, kind of meeting with me and having this conversation, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment, man. We're getting, we're getting the we're getting down to work even harder than what we ever have been, and I'm excited for the future, man. I just am. I couldn't imagine a different place to build this. This. We need Theta. We need Theta underneath this. This Theta needs, things that we're building. I truly believe that. bringing back value after this whole market has sort of taken a bit of a tumble. I know that the things we're working on are going to help that. And I can't wait to show everybody that truthfully.
All right. Well, it's about midnight here.
Oh,
So
me
it's all
too.
good.
Me too, brother. Me too.
I'm used to not getting too much sleep. It's all good. It's all good. Tomorrow's Friday though, so that's good. We'll
Yeah.
get the weekend. The week is almost here. All right, the guard. You have a good night.
All right.
And take care.
Talk to you.
Bye bye.
Bye.